Hi YouTube, my name's Al, and this week I want to talk about Strat upgrades. So this is my ARC Strat copy that I've had for about 2 or 3 years now, I think. And I've done some mods to it. I've changed pretty much everything on it, to be fair. I think the only thing that's stock is the neck plate and the wood, really. So I thought I'd give you my opinion on is it worth upgrading a cheap Strat copy, as I've done really quite a few if you go through my channel and have a look. So here's the crux of it. If you get a cheap guitar and you upgrade all the pieces on it, you are not going to increase the value of that guitar if you go to sell it. So don't think I've got a Squire neck and a no-name body or something. I've got a cheap guitar or what. It doesn't matter if it's a parts caster or a cheap Strat. If you've got a cheap guitar and you add, say, pickups, say they're 50 quid, you've got a bridge worth 30 quid, you know, you've got tuners worth 30 quid, it's not going to add that to the value, or even half that value of each part to the guitar. Really, it's still going to be worth only, say, 100 quid or whatever it was normally when you first bought it. So if you know what you're doing and you can upgrade the stuff, like I've been showing you how to upgrade the stuff, if you know what you're doing, it's easy to take this stuff off and sell it. But don't think when you're upgrading this stuff you're increasing the value of the guitar. You're not going to get the money back that you put into the parts. You can always take the parts off, as I said, and put the old ones back and sell those separately, but don't think you're going to get the value back. That being said, if you have a guitar you really like and it's a cheap guitar and you want to upgrade it and make it better, there are things you can do, obviously, to make it better. Upgrade the electronics, the bridge block is a huge improvement in my opinion. The saddles, these are about 11 quid. The bridge block was from Black Dog Music and it was about 20 quid. They're the 52mm spacing one. If you see one and you want one for your Strat, I'd say grab it because they're not always in stock. Tuners, like these are Vanson ones, they're not particularly expensive, they're only about 20 quid. Same sort of quality as Wilkinson. They're okay, they're better than the stock ones. So if you have a guitar you really like and you just need it to stay in tune a bit better, or you want a big block in it to improve the sustain and the strength of the note a little bit, or you know, you want to change the pickups. These are Roswell pickups, they're not particularly expensive. I got these second hand off a bloke off Facebook for about 25 quid. I am Ola England now, apparently. 25 quid for the set, so that's really not expensive at all. But if you want to improve your guitar, absolutely these things will improve your guitar. Perhaps not by a massive amount, but if it's already a guitar that sings and resonates in the hand and feels really nice to play, then absolutely you can do that. Now, there are things on this guitar, for example, that I've had to fix. So I don't even know if you can see this, but in there, if I can get the angle right, you might be able to see, I've had to put a thin piece of wood in. I've had to shim it. I got some shims from Stumac, and what that's doing is correcting the neck angle, because before it was too far like this. So with the neck coming up like this, the strings are getting higher and higher off the fretboard as they come up. So I've corrected that, and now it's even. The string height is even all along the way up to the top frets. So yeah, there are things like that where a guitar is built wrong where you can correct it. Even some early Fenders had that problem. We wouldn't really expect that on guitars of any reasonable quality these days, if I'm being honest. CNC machines and that should have largely sorted that out, but it does still happen. So take things like that into account when you're considering whether your Strat is worth upgrading or not. Again, another one's the frets. This one has a high fret, so if I bend at the 16th, 14th, the 15th fret, the one bend everyone does, it chokes out, and on the high E, basically no note whatsoever. So take things like that into account, because they will need to be sorted, and that's more important really. Getting it playing right is more important than tarting it up effectively. God, yeah, I've even put roller string trees on to help it stay in tune. And because they look nice, because, you know, black looks nice. But, yeah, make sure that you've got a good basis to upgrade to begin with, because if you don't have a guitar that you feel for you personally is worth upgrading, I wouldn't put a lot of money into it, and I certainly wouldn't put things into it that you're unlikely to get back. I mean, we're pretty lucky these days that if you ignore the Encores, the old Encores, they're 50mm spacing. All import strats, the E to E, middle of saddle to middle of saddle over there, it's always 52mm. So if you want to buy new saddles or an entire new bridge or a block, you know exactly, you know, which ones will fit just by looking on the website, and it'll tell you. I believe 54mm is Mexican or something like that, and 56 is US, something like that. Anyway, all the imports I've had, regardless of brand, have had, except the Encore, have had 52mm spacing. So it is very easy to swap this out. You just take the strings off, take the springs off the back, and you can take this bridge out and put a new bridge in and reverse the process, and it's a piece of poo. Piece of cake. Easy. So I'm losing my train of thought. Marbles, thread. So it is easy to put the parts back, but obviously you'll lose the strings in this process. But yeah, you're not going to lose a massive amount of money if you buy parts that aren't massively expensive. Obviously, you're not going to get as market improvement as buying, say, a Goto bridge or a full Wilkinson assembly or Tone Pros or whatever your brand of choice is. But if it's a cheap guitar, I'd say start with a somewhat decent upgrade, and then see if you think the guitar after that is worth a bigger upgrade, if you know, if you want to spend that amount of money. But really, you never get the money back that you put in. I feel like at this point, I've been doing this channel 5 years. I've done a hell of a lot of guitar upgrades and wiring mods and pickup swaps and bridge swaps and bridge blocks and saddles and befores and afters and tuner swaps and you name it. I've done loads of different stuff, and I feel like I've pretty much hit the bottom of this rabbit hole with cheap strats, upgrading cheap strats. I think because the Encore I haven't done that much to. My white Encore, all I did was upgrade the tuners because the stock ones were abysmal, and I put some half decent Alnico pickups from eBay in, and I changed the electronics from the small mini 500k ones to big sized 250k, which is what really normally comes with single coils. I'm not gonna say should, but normally you get 250 because they're the higher the number, the brighter they are. So these are bright pickup single coils, so you normally want 250. Anyway, I haven't done as much to that as I have to this, or some of my other strats that you would have seen on this channel, and it sounds great. It sounds fantastic. I think it's my #1 strat, to be honest. I did have it refret. I did spend a lot of money having it refretted properly, having a proper setup with a proper new nut that it direly needed. But the guitar hasn't been fundamentally changed from what it was. It still feels and sounds like it did before, really. I mean, the frets make it feel different to play, but it hasn't really changed the sound of the guitar that fundamentally. The pickups are good. Again, that's changed the sound, but they're only cheap pickups. Whereas I've done more to this, and I don't feel that this is in any way as improved as the Encore has been, and the vintage V6 I've had, that had a proper setup just to get it playing properly, and I've just had the electronics sorted out because I wanted 250k big pots, not 500k pots. And again, there's nothing more I'd need to do to that. The tuners are fine, the bridge is fine. It plays great now. I don't feel there's... Actually, I did a shielding plate, to be fair, under the pick guard, but I don't feel there's any need to change anything else on it. So as these cheap guitars felt so good stock, and this one that I've sort of tarted up is still very, very heavy, really heavy, I think you need to think carefully before upgrading your Strat copies and what's worth upgrading and what isn't. So that's really my advice. If you're going to sell it, again, I'd say take the parts off and sell them separately, or keep them for another project, which is very easy to do. I can just take this whole pickguard assembly off. I desolder a couple of wires from the jack, and then I can take everything out, and then I've got a load of cheap stuff where I can just transplant in onto a pickguard with the small holes. When you add CTS pots, you've got to widen the holes for the bigger pots. So I've got another scratch plate that I can go straight on. That's fine. It's going to look the exact same. And I can use all this again, which is the great thing about Strats. But really, this isn't that improved over what it was. It really isn't. It's less. This guitar's been about making it less things. Like, not about making it better. It's about making it less shrill or less dead by having the Alnico pickups. It's about giving it a bit more sustain with the saddles and the bridge block. It's been about making it play actually a lot better and playable by shimming the neck. It's not been about really making a guitar that I already really liked better. So as I'm reaching the bottom of this rabbit hole, I'm coming to the decision for me that I'm not going to be buying a guitar again that I would be buying with the intention of modding. I wouldn't buy a guitar thinking, yeah, this is a great guitar, I'll just change the tune, or I'll just change the bridge, or I'll just change the pickups. Or I think you're onto a loser if you do that, to be honest. Unless, I mean, obviously it's got to sing acoustically in your hands, and then if you like the way it sings acoustically, then you can go from there. But even then, this guitar is a bit dead acoustically. It's just not very loud, really not very loud at all. Let me try it with a pick. And it really doesn't sing half as loud as the Encore sounds, or the Vintage, or some of my other guitars. So I think even though it was built right, there's nothing wrong with this guitar. I mean, apart from the neck angle that I've corrected. All the frets are in the right place. Some of them need a bit of a, a level, because some of them are a bit squeaky. But I think that there is some mystery and some magic going on with guitars. They're all made of wood, and no two pieces of wood will ever be the same. So you've got to see whether a guitar wants to sing and resonate in your hands or not. It sounds dead. It doesn't want to resonate. It feels like it's fighting you. And so people who say wood does make a difference in guitars, I think that every guitar either wants to work and resonate, or there's something in it where it sort of dissipates certain frequencies and sort of dissipates that energy rather than passing it on to the pickups and coming out through your amp. And I think you can feel that when you hit a note. And yeah, I've reached the bottom of my journey modding cheap Strats. So I'm going to finish the projects I have. I'm going to finish the robot Strat that's getting the mini humbuckers. I've still got to get the Ratocaster neck aligned properly, because it's not quite right somehow in the neck pocket. But that does, despite being a really heavy basswood body, it's not actually that heavy anymore now the big maple neck's gone. It's got a little squire neck. So that plays nice. So I think that's probably worth me getting sorted. But again, it's one of these things where it really is a judgment call, because if you're spending, say, you could spend, say, £100 getting the frets sorted and buying some very cheap but half decent hardware, and you can have a guitar at the end of it that doesn't play that much better and definitely doesn't sound or feel that much better. I mean, getting the frets sorted does not affect the feel of the neck, doesn't affect the feel of the guitar. It just means that the frets don't choke out, but it doesn't affect the feel or the way it resonates. It's got to resonate, it's got to sing to begin with, I think. And I think if you can feel that the guitar is fighting you, then I think you're onto a loser, and you've got to seriously consider whether or not it's worth upgrading it. So there we have it. Bit of a rambling video this week. Just thought I'd share my thoughts on upgrading Strats. My plan is to at some point do a shootout on a cheap Strat that I've upgraded, one I've bought off the peg that I've done nothing to, and a kit build that I've basically designed and spec'd out myself from the ground up. Whether it be from aftermarket parts or whatever. So my plan is to do that at some point. That's still going to be in the future. I've got too many Strats, and I need the money at the moment. So I'm going to put the inexpensive parts back on this, and I'm going to flog it because I need the money and I need the space. And to be honest, this is the weakest of the herd of my Strats. I don't think it's a terrible guitar. I do not think it's a bad guitar. But to get it the way I would want it, I would at least need the frets sorting, and then after that it still doesn't feel very nice on the neck at all. It's a really massive neck. It's a really massive Hector, and it doesn't feel particularly nice in the hands. It doesn't sing particularly well in the hands. It feels very dead. It's very, very, very heavy, this guitar. So this is the weakest one, and this is why it's going. No idea why it's buzzing, but it is. Anyway, yeah, that's the end of the video, really. Thanks for watching. My name's Al. Like, subscribe, all that nonsense. Leave any questions down in the comments and I will try to get to them. I have loads of different videos on upgrading cheap Strats, so if you're interested in any of that stuff, go to my channel and check that out, and you'll find something that's probably relevant. If you have any questions about upgrading Strats, cheap Strats, imports, leave them down in the comments and I will try to get to them. So, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week. Until then, bye-bye.
Bye!